Have you noticed that something has quietly ended, even though no one announced the end? You wake up, follow your routine, speak to people, and yet there is a persistent feeling that something no longer fits. It is not sadness. It is not fear. It is a calm, steady clarity that does not go away. Situations you once tolerated now feel artificial. Conversations feel repetitive. Explanations feel exhausting. And somewhere inside you, there is a knowing. I can no longer pretend this still works. You may have tried to ignore this feeling. You may have told yourself it was just tiredness, or a phase, or emotional overload. But it remains quiet, stable, unavoidable. We, the Pleiadians, have observed this threshold. For a very long time, our role is not intervention. Our responsibility is not control. We are guardians of the human emotional field, specialists in heart coherence, and stabilizers during moments when false structures begin to lose support. We oversee the transition points where the heart withdraws energy from distortion and returns to inner alignment. And it is important that you understand this clearly now. The end game does not begin with external events. It begins inside human perception. When the heart stops feeding what is false, entire systems lose their foundation, not through rebellion, not through conflict, but through silent disengagement. You are not confused. You are no longer aligned with the old agreement. This phase does not arrive with noise or drama. It arrives with lucidity, with inner stillness, with the unmistakable sense that there is no true return to who you once were. Things that once felt normal now feel strangely distant. Roles feel heavy. Social games feel unnecessary, and the effort required to maintain appearances suddenly feels greater than the effort required to let them fall. This is not collapse as humans imagine it. This is exposure. It is the moment when false structures begin to dissolve because the emotional energy sustaining them has been withdrawn. Our responsibility during this phase is to protect the clarity of the heart, to soften the emotional turbulence of awakening, and to ensure that this transition does not turn into fear or confusion. We do not force realization. We stabilize those who are already ready. The end game is not a warning. It is not a prediction. It is a state of awareness. And if you are hearing these words now, it is because this state has already activated within you. You did not choose it consciously. It emerged naturally. The moment your inner coherence became stronger than your tolerance for distortion. We are here, not to alarm you, not to persuade you, and not to push you toward action. We are here to hold the emotional field steady as the false begins to lose its grip and the human heart regains its natural clarity. Remain calm, remain present, recognize what is already unfolding within you. The end game has begun. Many hear the words endgame and immediately imagine chaos, collapse, or dramatic destruction. That image belongs to old narratives that relied on fear to create movement. The end game is not loud, it is not sudden, and it is not violent. It is a quiet conclusion reached when a system can no longer justify its existence. To the human heart, a structure does not fall because it is attacked from the outside. It falls because it is no longer sustained from within. What you are witnessing now is not the end of the world. It is the end of emotional investment in realities that have been empty for far longer than most were willing to admit. The end game begins at the precise moment when maintaining what is false requires more energy than living in coherence with truth. At that moment, The psyche stops cooperating. The body resists artificial pressure. The heart withdraws its support. This withdrawal does not feel dramatic. Feels subtle. Feels like fatigue without a clear cause, like disinterest without numbness, like distance without rejection. You may notice that ambitions which once pushed you forward no longer create inner movement. Goals that once felt urgent now feel strangely hollow. Social rewards lose their attraction. External validation loses its weight. Nothing is wrong with you. You are responding precisely to an environment that no longer matches your internal coherence. From our perspective, this phase marks the point where distortion can no longer stabilize itself. Through emotional participation, false identities weaken because they are no longer nourished. False hierarchies lose gravity because belief has quietly withdrawn. False narratives begin to sound empty, even when repeated with confidence. This is not rebellion. It is not resistance. It is disengagement, and disengagement creates space. When clarity arises, it does not remain contained for long. It naturally seeks expression, not to convince others, but to complete itself. What remains unexpressed continues to circulate internally. It stays negotiable. It stays unfinished. But what is expressed once simply allows the emotional field to settle into a new configuration. A written acknowledgement is not an action toward the outside world. It is an internal alignment, made visible. That is why recognition, once named, no longer demands explanation. The nervous system registers coherence. The heart relaxes into certainty. The old agreement quietly dissolves. Write in the comments, "I have withdrawn my energy from what is false." Write in the comments, "I have withdrawn my energy from what is false." What you are feeling now is not sudden. It did not appear overnight. It has been building quietly, beneath the surface of your life. For a long time, long before you could name it, your system began adjusting. Small withdrawals, subtle refusals, moments where something inside you chose silence instead of reaction. This is why the sensation feels familiar, even if the clarity feels new. You have already crossed many internal thresholds. Without realizing it, this phase arrives when the emotional body can no longer pretend, when intuition becomes stronger than conditioning, when inner coherence outweighs the need to belong. You may notice that you no longer seek validation the way you once did. You listen more, you speak less, and when you do speak, it feels heavier to say what is not true than to remain silent. This is not withdrawal from life. It is withdrawal from distortion. The reason this is happening now is simple. Your internal frequency has shifted beyond the range that old structures were built to support. What once felt acceptable now feels misaligned. What once felt normal now feels excessive. What once felt necessary now feels optional. This is why you may feel temporarily out of place, not lost, but no longer synchronized with the rhythms around you. From our perspective, this is a natural phase in the maturation of consciousness. It occurs when the heart stops adapting to the environment, and the environment is asked silently to adapt to the heart. This creates a period of stillness, not emptiness. Stillness, pause where identity loosens, where roles soften, where the future is not yet defined, because the past no longer applies. Many misinterpret this space as uncertainty. In truth, it is precision forming. You are not meant to rush through this phase. It is a recalibration, not a delay. As clarity stabilizes, movement will return, but it will move differently, less driven, more deliberate, aligned. This is why there is no urgency now, no pressure to decide, no need to explain yourself. What is happening is already enough, and this internal shift is precisely why the end game feels personal, because it is not beginning around you, it is completing itself within you. What collapses during the endgame does not collapse violently, and it does not collapse suddenly. It weakens, it loses density, it loses tension, it loses its ability to command emotional loyalty. False structures do not fall because they are attacked, exposed, or defeated. They fall because they are no longer nourished. For a long time, they survived through participation, through agreement, through habit, through emotional investment. When that investment is withdrawn, there is no force left to sustain them. This is why the collapse is often invisible at first. On the surface, everything appears unchanged. People continue their routines. Institutions remain standing. Conversations sound the same. Yet something essential has quietly left. The emotional charge that once made these structures feel necessary is no longer present. Relationships may still exist, but feel hollow. Roles may still be performed, but feel mechanical. Commitments may still be spoken, but no longer resonate internally. This creates a subtle tension. People sense that something is wrong, yet cannot identify a clear cause. They try to repair appearances, while the foundation has already lost coherence. This is how the false dissolves. Not through confrontation, not through rebellion, not through exposure, through depletion. When belief is withdrawn, there is nothing left to hold a structure together. From our perspective, this phase is not disorder. It is correction. The human emotional field is recalibrating its boundaries. It is learning again what it will sustain and what it will not. What lacks authenticity can no longer draw energy. What lacks coherence can no longer stabilize itself. This is why so many now feel that systems are outdated, that authority sounds empty, that explanations repeat without producing certainty. The collapse is not happening to you. It is happening around your clarity. Clarity does not confront the false. It does not argue with it. It does not attempt to replace it. It simply stops feeding it. And when this understanding settles, it seeks grounding, not to convince anyone, not to influence outcomes, but to allow the emotional system to register that the old structure no longer has a place to return to. A simple acknowledgement anchors this realization. Write in the comments, the false is collapsing because it is no longer sustained. At this point, what matters most is not understanding every detail of what is happening, but learning how to remain internally stable while the process unfolds. When familiar structures dissolve, the mind instinctively searches for replacement. It looks for new meanings, new identities, new explanations to recreate a sense of ground. But this phase is not about replacing the old with something new. It is about releasing pressure. For a long time, you adapted yourself to systems that required constant emotional effort. You adjusted your tone. You managed expectations. You carried internal tension to remain functional within structures that were no longer aligned. Now that tension is decompressing. This is why urgency feels wrong, why forcing conclusions feels artificial, why even useful answers seem insufficient or premature. The system is recalibrating. During recalibration, stillness is not stagnation. It is integration. The nervous system is learning how to exist without constant alertness. The emotional body is learning how to remain open without attaching itself to what no longer resonates. This learning phase can feel unfamiliar and exposed. Without the old references, there may be moments where you feel undefined, not lost, but no longer shaped by expectations that once gave you form. This can feel unsettling if you interpret identity as something fixed. But identity is not disappearing. It is loosening. What is dissolving is not who you are, but who you had to be. This phase teaches restraint, not suppression. Restraint, the ability to pause without immediately assigning meaning, to remain present without rushing toward resolution, to exist without explanation and still feel coherent. Many attempt to escape this space. By creating artificial momentum, they declare new paths too quickly. They force decisions. They cling to certainty before clarity has stabilized. That is how distortion returns. What is required now is steadiness, the capacity to remain grounded while inner structures reorganize, to allow coherence, to assemble naturally, instead of being imposed by urgency or fear. This is why silence feels protective, why fewer words feel accurate, why simplicity begins to feel honest. You may notice that your tolerance for noise decreases, that overstimulation feels draining, that clarity prefers space. This is not withdrawal from life. It is withdrawal from excess. You are not losing direction. Direction is reorganizing from the inside outward. As internal pressure continues to dissolve, movement will return, but it will move differently, more slowly, more deliberately, less driven by fear, obligation, or approval, more guided by alignment. What emerges from this phase will not need constant justification. It will feel stable without explanation. Nothing essential is being taken from you now. What is leaving was sustained by effort, not by truth. And as this recalibration completes, what remains will feel lighter, clearer, and unmistakably yours. At this stage of the endgame, there is a subtle pattern that quietly drains clarity. If it goes unnoticed, it begins the moment you realize that something inside you has changed, and you instinctively feel the need to do something with that realization, to explain it, to translate it, to make it understandable, to soften it so it can be accepted. This impulse comes from old conditioning. For a long time, belonging depended on explanation. Safety depended on being understood. Connection depended on agreement. But this phase does not operate by those rules anymore. Clarity does not require explanation. It does not need permission, and it does not strengthen by being shared prematurely. When you attempt to explain what others are not yet able to perceive, you place your coherence back into negotiation. You begin to adjust your language. You dilute what you know. You fragment your inner alignment to maintain external comfort. This is how old structures try to pull you back, not through pressure, not through confrontation, but through conversation that subtly asks you to step out of yourself. The end game does not advance through persuasion. It advances through withdrawal of participation. Silence at this stage is not avoidance. It is refinement. It is the choice to stop translating your inner state into terms that distort it. When you stop explaining, Something stabilizes. The nervous system relaxes. The emotional field conserves energy. Clarity deepens without effort, because it is no longer being negotiated. You may notice that certain conversations now feel heavy, that repeating yourself feels draining, that presence without commentary feels more truthful than words. This is not isolation. It is alignment. You are no longer available for exchanges that require you to abandon your own coherence. Not everyone needs to understand what you are stepping away from. Not everyone is meant to follow you into this phase. And that is not a failure. It is precision. Your role now is not to awaken others. It is not to justify your distance. It is not to defend your clarity. Your role is to remain aligned while the false loses momentum on its own. As this understanding settles, a quiet relief often appears. The relief of not having to convince. The relief of not having to explain. The relief of letting absence communicate what words cannot. When this relief is recognized, it naturally seeks grounding. Write in the comments, "I no longer explain what I have already outgrown." After the endgame phase stabilizes, something begins to emerge that is often misunderstood. It is not excitement. It is not relief in the usual sense. And it is not the feeling of having won anything. It is sobriety, a quiet, grounded clarity that does not seek stimulation and does not depend on intensity to feel real. Many expect that once the false collapses, something dramatic should replace it. A new identity, a new mission, a sudden sense of purpose. That expectation belongs to the old structure. What actually emerges is something far more subtle. Simplicity. Life begins to feel less crowded internally. Choices become fewer, but clearer. Relationships become fewer, but more honest. You may notice that you no longer feel pulled toward excess explanation, excess emotion, or excess meaning. Things either resonate or they do not. And when they do not, there is no need to fight them. This is one of the clearest signs that the endgame has passed. Its most intense phase. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. Energy returns, but it returns differently. Not as urgency, not as ambition fueled by fear, but as steady presence. Daily life may look similar on the outside, yet internally it feels quieter, more spacious, less pressured. You begin to trust your own pacing again. There is less interest in being seen, less interest in being understood, less interest in being positioned in any particular way. What matters now is internal consistency. You choose what aligns without needing justification. You disengage from what does not, without resentment. This is not detachment from life. It is intimacy with reality, as it actually is. Many are surprised by how ordinary this phase feels. There are no constant insights, no emotional highs, no need to narrate the experience. And yet, there is a deep sense that nothing essential is missing. This is the beginning of living without distortion, not above the world, not against it, but no longer entangled in what is false. From here, life becomes quieter, more precise, and far less demanding. You are not moving towards something dramatic. You are settling into what is real. And once this settles, there is no desire to return to the previous intensity, because clarity, once embodied, does not ask to be replaced. It simply remains. This phase does not conclude with an announcement. It does not close with a declaration. and it does not require confirmation from the outside world. What completes now, completes quietly. By the time the endgame reaches this point, there is no longer a question of if something has changed. There is only the recognition that it already has. You may notice that you no longer feel the need to analyze what happened. There is less interest in tracing causes or timelines, less need to explain how you arrived here. The mind relaxes because it no longer needs to defend clarity. What once felt heavy now feels unnecessary. What once demanded effort now feels optional. What once pulled your attention no longer has gravity. This is how completion feels. Not dramatic, not emotional, but settled. There is a sense that something has closed behind you without resistance. No doors are slammed, no bridges are burned. They simply no longer lead anywhere you need to go. This is why the endgame cannot be reversed, not because of force, but because there is no desire to return to distortion. You do not reject the past. You do not fight it. You simply no longer live there. From this place, the future does not demand planning. It does not require urgency. It unfolds through alignment, not effort. You move when movement is natural. You pause when pause is accurate, and neither feels like a problem. What guides you now is not pressure, not fear, not expectation. It is internal coherence. This coherence does not need protection. It does not need explanation. It remains intact because it is no longer dependent on external agreement. And this is where stability truly resides, not in certainty, but in congruence. You are no longer waiting for permission to be where you are. You are no longer seeking signs that you are on the right path. The need for confirmation has ended. This is the quiet power of completion. And when this recognition settles fully, it naturally seeks a final anchoring, not as a ritual, not as a command, but as acknowledgement. Write in the comments, "The end game is complete within me." We remain present. The field is stable, and what unfolds from here will do so without force, without distortion, and without return.